In this video, guys, I want to talk about reverse engineering your worst trading days. Stick around. Hey traders, warm welcome to you. All right, so something to think about in trading is like, listen, for many of us in our early days of trading, we kind of grow, give it all back. Grow, give it all back. And that's often done on a worst day or cluster of days. Often it's not symmetrical. Don't like kind of go up and then come down. It tends to be that kind of really devastating hammering to your equity curve. So one thing to do is to step back and think about what is actually happening on those days. And when you do this, the objective is to think about how can my behavior be aligned in the opposite way so that I can actually take advantage of these type of days. So let me explain to you what I mean. So you think about your worst trading day, right? Your worst day. Now, if I think back 15, 16 years ago, the worst things I would do are, if I was struggling and I wasn't doing so well, I wouldn't quit. I would keep pressing. I'd maybe add some more positions. I'd probably trade more size. I'd do all the things that really didn't work. And so, analyzing that, let's say you're in that position now, you analyze that and say, well, actually, look, the first thing is to just kind of try to avoid doing that. But the next leg is to go, right, listen, if I can do the opposite of that, if I can think differently, if I can say, hey, my worst days when I'm trading loads and I'm losing lots and I'm adding to positions and I have no risk limits, it's like, okay, well, let me flip it on its head. So you start to say, okay, we'll get to that in a moment, but you start to think about what are your worst day habits and note them down. And you go, okay, how are my executions? So are you kind of chasing the market? Are you always looking for breakouts? Are you fading the trend? What's the situation? How do you scale in and out? Are you adding to positions that are going against you? Are you adding positions that are going in your favor? Probably not when you're in a losing day. What's the commonality amongst that losing day? How do you take profits? Are you kind of snatching quick profits? Are you kind of coming all out? Are you scaling out? How are you doing that? And then what's the typical day type? What's the day that catches you out the most? Is it a rotational day? Is it a trending day? Is there no kind of pattern? So once you have all of this, right, the objective is this, is you go, right, those are my worst days. That's how I perform on my worst days, the worst. Does the most damage. Okay, so let me think clearly. And let me say, okay, well, if I can do the opposite of what I do on those days, how can I become better? And so you start to dissect it into little areas and you go, okay, listen, when I am, one of my worst day habits is to kind of grab trades quickly that go in my favor. I let trades kind of go to the stop loss, maybe take a big stop, but I tend to snatch trades quickly and tend to look at P&L. So you think, right, well, actually what I need to do is I know it sounds obvious, but you can see the evidence in front of you now. You go, hey, what I need to do is to be very quick to cut the loser and be a little bit more patient with the winner. First port of call. Next thing might be scaling, right? You might say, okay, listen, I tend to scale in to the trades and then come out when they go my way, and that tends to be the hallmark of a bad day. When they go my way, I'm all out. So you flip that and you say, okay, actually, why don't I scale into the trades as it's going my way, and when it goes against me, I'm all out. What about when you think about how you enter the trade? Like, okay, well, actually, most of what I do is I wait until there's a big kind of bar, and I buy on the close of the bar, and I do this and I do that. Well, if that's not working for you, why don't you think about doing the opposite and say, listen, my default and almost like a panic mode way to trade is to buy breakouts. I see the market going and I jump on it because I think momentum's going to carry on. It's going to be a quick profit. I'm going to make some money. So think about, okay, that's not working for you because it's your worst days. You want to reverse engineer them. How can you fade those moves? How can you look from an operational perspective to be on the other side of that trade? So what you're kind of doing here is you're building up a picture. You're writing everything down. You're saying, hey, these are the patterns that I possess. This is the pattern of the market. This is the way that I execute. This is the way that I approach things on my worst days. And this is how I end up having a horrible day. So if I can look at that and say, this is unusual for me, number one, to stop it. But number two, let's take it to a next level, is thinking I need to do the opposite of what I'm always doing on my worst days. So we might stop when you're winning, for example. But on your worst days, you don't stop when you're winning, you don't stop when you're losing, you carry on. So flip it and say, right, when I'm doing well, I don't stop. I just carry on and carry on. The scaling thing, you say, right, rather than scaling in a losing trade and trying to get a little bit of profit, I'm trying to get into the winning trade. You just flip everything you do on its head. I know it sounds easier said than done, but what you're trying to do here is isolate one or two themes and say, right, this is always catching me out. A great example is many traders on trend days, and I used to be one of these super trend days where we were trying to fight the trend. It's got to bounce, it's got to bounce. Buy, stopped, buy, stopped, buy, stopped, buy, stopped. That time it's death by 1,000 cuts. Then by the time you follow the trend, it's the end of the trend. So thinking differently. I know it's just not as simple as just flipping the switch and saying this, but when you're in a trend day, you say, hey, what have I done the past days that's absolutely hammered me? That's wrong. I've always tried to fade it. Okay, let me follow the trend. As much as it feels like it's too late, it's this, that, the other, how would I get into this trade normally? Where would my stop be normally? If I was trying to do this, what would I do there? Probably be below the low, right? So sell into that fresh low. And this might be uncomfortable. It might not be something you want to do, but what you're doing is here, you're seasoning yourself and you're saying, hey, listen, I need to do the opposite of what I know is the worst case scenario for me. I'm always trying to fade this trend. So why don't I just do the other thing? And I'm always scaling in, add to the position is going your way. I'm always kind of, cutting my losers really, letting them run and kind of seeing if they give them work, giving stuff room, but I'm very quick to grab profits, flip on its head. This is all basic stuff we know. Run the winners, don't scale into losers, da-la-la-la-la. But actually when you see it as evidence of stuff that when you do the opposite of what you know you should do, you have a really horrible day, it should really cement the fact that from a logical perspective, if you can get on the end of things and just flip how your instinct is on those worst days, they can become your best days. And maybe it's not going to be instant. I'm not going to stand here and pretend, hey, all of a sudden you can just do the opposite of what you're thinking, you're going to make loads of money. No, of course, it's not going to be the case. But if you can identify those patterns of behavior on the worst days, the first port of call is to stop them, and the second port of call is to say, right, hey, there's opportunity to make money here because I'm losing a lot of money on these type of days, or I'm losing a lot of money while in this situation. So if I can just manage to think a little on the opposite way, there's opportunity to make more money. I know it's not as easy as that. I've said that multiple times and I mean it. I know it's not as easy as, oh, well, just do the opposite and become a winner. No, but there's certain circumstances where your behavior is very much different and it's causing you, a bad run. It's causing you to have a poor performance. So you can at least identify that and you can think about how can I really accelerate my performance? How can I at least stop that damage and accelerate my performance? So reverse engineer your worst days. Think about it. Go back, look at the worst days, look at some of the patterns of behavior and think, if I can program myself to do the opposite of that, I'll be in a far better position. Take care. See you next one, guys. Bye-bye.